So you found the skeleton. How would you tell people that? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on this.
Hey everybody, welcome to Matt with Madie number 25. That's what it is. It's number 25. This one is
25 is a good number.
It
I like
is.
it. It's a square. It's like it's a quarter of 100. 25 is a good number.
Yeah.
I can come up with reasons to like just about every number, and that did concern my therapist one time. But I was like, no, I'm just a math nerd.
Yeah. What's wrong with being a math nerd?
Yeah. I was like, oh, this is a great number because everything in it is a power of 3. And he was just like, do you look for patterns often? And I'm like, I don't even understand. You don't even understand how normal of behavior this is in a math department. Like,
yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a math department. That's what it's for.
That's not part of my, that's not one of the reasons I'm here. Anyway.
I've already come to terms with my crazy pattern seeking in numbers. We can move on from that. Well, hello everyone. We are here, of course, for Matt with Madie 25, in which we will be taking a look at the nonsense spouted by Raw Matt, who is, of course, a formulator of epic elixirs and an ordained Essene.
And I think we've discussed, well, all of that is just nonsense.
Yes, we have indeed.
If you guys have not been joining us for this particular Uncooked Matthew podcast, please keep in mind this whole time that this is a health and nutrition podcast. And that's not what we're talking about. And also being an ordained Essene it's stupid. It's a stupid concept.
Yeah, it's wrong on just so many levels that it's hard to even express how absurd that statement is. But hey, we're not the one who made them. Matt Nylor is on his book that's in the thumbnail that you guys were looking at before you got here. So, yeah, no. All right. So, the way this show works, if you're new or if it's been a while and you just forgot, is that we go ahead and listen to Raw Matt saying really stupid stuff, and we have some drinking rules to go along with that. Now, before I start out, first, you absolutely do not have to play along with alcohol. Madie did like 9 episodes or something not drinking, so...
And that's how Dapper knew I was pregnant at the time.
Yeah, like the first episode where you were like, oh yeah, I'm having like some water. I was like, well, that's odd. And then like this next time I was like,
So I have my, this is my favorite beer I have with the stream because it's called Bearded Theologian. And it's a Belgian quad. And I will be sipping it. I'm coming off a bad migraine a couple days ago. So I think I feel good. I think I can play the whole night. But if you guys see me switch to water, no big deal. It's because I'm taking care of my brain, and you all should take care of your brains too.
Absolutely.
So please do not, if you don't want to drink alcohol, don't do that. If that's not safe for you, don't do that. Play along with water or juice or tea, or just cheer us on, whatever have you. There's all good ways to play. And as always, neither myself nor Dapper nor the channel are going to take any responsibility if y'all choose to like operate heavy machinery, drive a car, Rex. These are not things we recommend.
Yeah, these are all bad ideas. Don't do them.
Don't do them.
Yep. All right.
Did I steal your spiel? I've heard.
No, it's fine. I liked it. It's nice to have, the weight lifted off of me, so I don't have to do it every single time. I appreciate it. So the drinking rules are as follows. 1, if Raw Matt says something that's just so stupid we kind of have to cool our brains down, we take a drink. 2, if Raw Matt in this case, or Matt Powell, I suppose if he shows up, I doubt it, but you never know. Those two travel in the same circles. So if the creationist in question says something that is actually verifiably, factually accurate, but they are not simply quoting someone who said it, it actually comes out of their brain, we'll take a drink. It's one of our least used triggers. Now, if they tell a joke that doesn't land, or tell a story that we're pretty darn sure didn't happen, we'll take a drink. Now, that second one, it is always a bit of a judgment call, But, you know, if the story is about, oh, this one time I was on an airplane with a professor from Berkeley who apparently didn't know anything about any of the topics I was discussing, and I converted him to young Earth creationist versions of Christianity right on the spot, and then the entire airplane clapped as they all decided to come to Jesus.
I was about to say, if any story that ends in and then everyone clapped,
yeah,
we're gonna drink for.
Yeah, we're probably gonna drink for. Or if it just sounds like the next line should be, and then everyone clapped, yeah, we're gonna probably drink for it. Now, hey, we might get some of those wrong, but guess what? This is just a show for funsies, to hang out with,
This is a fun show.
with Madie, with my audience. This is not a super serious kind of a thing, if that's what you're looking for. My scripted videos come out weekly. So, yeah, we're mostly here to have fun. So, yeah, if we screw up one of those and it's like, oh no, that story was actually true, here's the documentation, it's like, okay, well, oops.
My bad.
Moving
we'll
on.
Take back a drink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll take one less drink. No, I won't. I won't take any less drinks the next time.
Yeah.
So we also have, if anyone, if the creationist brings up the, say, the regime in Germany during like the 1930s and 40s, we take a drink for that. Now it does not.
Added for the mats. We've added for the mats, mostly because Matt Powell likes to bring up Columbine and other unfortunate events. So that one falls under there, but that's more of a Matt Powell thing.
Yeah, Raw Matt does that less.
Yeah.
But let's see. Also, if Madie or I can make a successful prediction about what Matt is going to say next, where it's not very obvious, then we'll take a drink. Also, if Raw Matt cites a source, which he almost never does, but you never know, and we check the source, and not only does it fail to support his contention, but it actively disconfirms his contention, then we take the drink for Trojan source. This, as you might notice, is very similar to the first law of Flerth, which is that Flerth citations always contradict the claim. The young Earth creationist law that is similar to that is a little bit less strong, and it's young Earth creationist citations to non-young Earth creationist literature never support the claim. Which is not to say that they always contradict the claim, but sometimes it's a little bit in the middle. I think Madie has frozen. Madie, are you still there? Uh-oh. Madie seems to have frozen. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to type to Madie and see if she's still there. Madie, you are frozen. Are you still there? All right, I have typed that to her. My connection on my end looks good, so we're good there. Now, we also have ad hominid. Ad hominid is when we, the creationist confuses what we know from the skeleton of Lucy, the Australopithecus afarensis, for what we know of any wider taxon to which she belongs. So, for instance, if the creationist says, oh, well, we don't know... Oh. Is everyone getting... Oh, Madie, you're back.
Oh, huzzah. Okay. I was concerned it was my internet being stupid.
Well, I'm also getting Fearmonger saying that he's getting buffering on YouTube. Is anyone else getting buffering on YouTube, or is it just Fearmonger?
Ooh.
Because it could be that there's some kind of weird thing with just the internet generally, which I hope not. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. Oh, yes, yeah, ad hominid. Now, we can only take one ad hominid drink per stream, because once you go ad hominid once in a stream, the creationist in question usually just keeps on doing it. But there are also some ways you guys can get us to drink, and I will be going through some super chats before we get there. Now, Hank says for $6.66 dollary dues, that's $6.66 dollary dues, won't say raw mat is stupid, but having a less varied diet than a lab monkey is going to cause serious nutrient deficiencies and cognitive impairment. Yeah. Don't take nutritional advice from raw mat. Don't take them from me either, right? Because, I'm not a nutritionist.
I'm not a nutritionist.
Yeah.
I can't feed myself. I am capable of keeping exactly one human alive, and I have chosen the baby.
Rip Madie.
Yeah, pretty much. She gets the most balanced meals, and I'm over here like, I'm gonna have like a bag of Cheetos and some chocolate.
All right, but I'm just saying, if you're not doing well, it'll be harder for you to make sure she's doing well.
You're right. Self-care is important.
Self-care is part of other care.
It is. It's true.
Savage Monkeyfish Cobra for $5 says, I don't take good care of my brain. It's why I'm here getting psychic damage. Yes. Now, Royland says, happy holidays with a Godzilla and a can't get bent. So we'll take a drink for that Godzilla. Thank you very much. Which brings us to the first way that y'all can make us drink, which is that if you send any super chat or membership milestone chat that contains any of the kaiju emoji, we have a Godzilla, we have a Mothra, we have a King Ghidorah, we will take a drink. Additionally, if you send anything to the effect that AIG, that's Answers in Genesis, are a bag of dicks, we will take a drink. Now, you do have to be a little creative because YouTube will censor it if you just type in AIG or a bag of dicks. So, you know.
In English.
Yeah, in English. You can do it in many other languages, I found. Which, I don't know if that's just because I have this stream set to be labeled as English. Like, if I set it to Spanish, would that change it so that you couldn't say that in Spanish? I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm not going to do that because I do stream almost exclusively in English. It's my channel, so, you know, other languages pop up here and there, but, like, the bulk of every stream is in English, and I don't plan on changing that. But yeah, I don't know. If anyone has streamed with a different language setting, let me know if they actually do censor things in other languages, because what do I know?
Listen, I'm a dumb American. I only speak English. I barely speak English, and everything else I know is math. So the only foreign languages I know are programming.
Hey, programming languages aren't easy.
They're not.
Don't dismiss that. Okay, so the last drink trigger that I can remember, and if there's others, well, okay, we'll take them as we go, is that if anyone gifts memberships, we will take a drink for each gifted membership. Now, somewhere around 30, I'm just going to finish this beer and go get another one. By the way, I am drinking a Kilt Lifter Scottish-style amber ale from Four Peaks.
A Kilt Lifter? My goodness, what's the ABV?
Let's see. It's only 6.
Oh,
yeah.
Hardly should be labeled Kilt Lifter unless it's just that smooth.
It is actually pretty darn smooth.
Okay.
Eddie McCoy for $10 says, I have to work Christmas Eve, so apologies in advance if I miss anything. Well, I don't believe we have anything for Christmas Eve, but we do have a show on Festivus. So the Dapper Dino channel is having a Festivus special. And I am expecting to set apart some of that show for people who want to air their grievances to send in some super chat or milestone chats about their grievances. And we can have an airing of grievances on the show. Now,
amazing.
Thank you. It is primarily a Dapper Journal Club where we're going to be taking a look at the response that Gabriella Haynes gave to the response that she got from Marcus Ross and Matt McLean to her paper about Archaeopteryx. So that's the main focus there. But if you want to air grievances to the channel as a whole, it is a great time to do that. And let me tell you, I got some problems with you people, and you're going to hear about it. But on Festivus.
Boy, howdy.
And then later, I'll go off air and do feats of strength. Like, maybe I'll try to pick up the dishwasher or something, and then I'll put my back out, and then I'll just lay down for all of Christmas. It'll be great.
That works, yeah.
All right, but with that, I think it is time, finally, to get into some Matt stuff. Now, Matt had just finished telling us how, apparently, if you make a super heavy element in a lab, and it decays in a really short amount of time, that for some reason that means that other radioactive isotopes also can decay faster than their measured and calculated decay rates, which is
nonsense.
Incredibly nonsensical.
A preemptive drink for the dumb.
Yeah, I'll follow you in that. We'll do that. That works. I mean, I'm trying to think of something as dumb as that, and
just so clearly demonstrating having absolutely no knowledge of the subject, right?
I think I got a good analogy. It's kind of like saying, okay, if the Concorde jet can fly across the Atlantic in like 4 hours, then you should be able to swim across the Atlantic in 4 hours. It's like, no. Those are very different things. I get that they're both movement across the same space from one place to the other, but like everything about them is different. So no.
Or even if it's like, hey, if Usain Bolt can run the 100 meters in an insane, in half a second, then surely you can too. You're both humans.
Right?
Well,
I mean, I'm a Ceratosaurus, but
Yeah, right. But like, anyway, to another human, that would be because it's like, yes, like, listen, I hate to break it to you, but yeah, uranium-238 and uranium-235 are both uranium. They have different decay constants. So if you made uranium-3000, that's going to have a super fast decay constant because that's insanely unstable.
Yeah, it
Right?
is.
But that doesn't affect the decay constant of uranium-238 or 235 or 236, right?
Alex Marco
Oh my
says,
gosh.
"We know you're only gripe with us. How many times do we have to tell you that you're really niche and hard to share? Just share it without any kind of anything. Just share it to your Facebook page. See what happens."
Amazing.
I still got fewer than 1% of my viewers this past week hitting share.
Alas.
All right, here we go. Here's some raw math.
You got to hit play. We got to get into it.
So it's just an assumption. So what they've actually
Yes, physics, just an assumption.
Physics, just an assumption. That's the decay constants, just an assumption.
Mhm.
They know they're different. No, decay constants are constant for a given isotope.
Mhm. And the thing is, it's not like they're just something that we only have to measure, right? Like, we actually have good reasons why physics would preclude them from being different, right? And with very well supported physics in like particle physics, which, granted, I'm not going to say I understand all that stuff because I don't, but I do know that when it comes to mathematical precision, the standard model of particle physics is basically it's one of the most accurate models in all of science in terms of mathematical precision of its predictions compared to actual experimental results in pretty much every case. So, like, this is not something that we're guessing about, even if it's too complex for me to figure out all the way, which makes it way too complex for raw math.
Yes.
Done is they're trying to use like a light travel thing, but the problem with
this is him talking about why the universe is old. So that's why he's connecting light travel time to isotope decay rates, which he had tied back to radiometric decay. Yeah, I had to go back and like catch back up because when we only do this once a month, I'm like, what were we talking about again?
Dabber, I'm so sorry. The baby has been fully out, but I'm hearing her scream. I'm gonna go pick her up, and we're gonna have a science baby.
All right, I'm gonna hit play while you go do that. If you want to turn your camera off temporarily or anything, feel free.
Yep.
All right, here we go.
What that is looking at the cosmic microwave background and testing the light travel issue.
So it's not necessarily the cosmic microwave background radiation, because the cosmic microwave background radiation is basically coming from everywhere all at once, and it's not really easy to get a distance to it. It doesn't really mean much to say that there's a distance to the cosmic microwave background radiation. Instead, what we're really doing is anything past 6,000 years, or whatever age you think the Earth is, whether it's 10,000, 100,000, a million, becomes a problem for that. Now, Guptu3, who's been a member for 17 months, says, pretzels is same, but elements is same. Mothra. Thank you very much. We will take a drink from Mothra. All right.
Yes, taking a drink. It's so dumb, he made the baby cry.
Fits of Rage says, share to shitter for all of my 0 followers with the AIG's bag of dicks. So we'll take a drink for the AIG being a bag of dicks, and thank you. Can I make Matt louder? I can. I just did. We'll see how that works. So yeah, the thing that we're looking at is not the cosmic microwave background radiation so much for the light travel time. That's just anything that's too far away for the young Earth hypothesis being proposed. So basically, most of the Milky Way is already a problem. Because if something is 10 light years away, we'll use smallish numbers, right? That means, so a light year is the amount of distance that light travels in a year. So if light has traveled 10 light years, that light has been traveling for 10 years. Which means that if something is 1,000,000 light years away, then the light we see from it has been traveling for 1,000,000 years. But if there hasn't been 1,000,000 years in which light could travel, then we shouldn't be able to see anything that far away. Oh, and yes, the timer right now is basically Sal said that he would watch a series that name dropped him on my channel, and then he didn't, and then he responded to it kind of anyway, even though his response was not really relevant to anything that I said. And so, as far as I'm concerned, that makes him kind of bitch made until he makes it known that he has watched that. And I don't expect him to ever actually watch it. So basically, he's just going to remain bitch made. And we're probably going to take the timer off after it reaches like a year. So, yeah. All right, here we go.
They actually have a huge problem of their own called the horizon problem. And it's funny, too, because they like to point that we have a problem when theirs is so much greater.
So, okay. We're going to take a quick drink, because this is about to get really dumb. Hi, baby. There's a human larva. Look at that. Oh, you're muted. Still muted.
Science bait.
Ah, there it is. Okay, so the horizon problem basically comes with the relatively extreme anisotropy of the cosmic microwave background radiation, which would not be predicted from a constant expansion rate following the Big Bang that is at the level that you might otherwise predict based on current models of expansion as it occurs now. And the reason for this is that if you just wind the current expansion back, basically the universe gets too big for the cosmic microwave background radiation from one side of the sky to the other to have been in thermal contact. Basically, they would have been past each other's cosmic event horizon, so they couldn't interact with each other, so they couldn't have exchanged heat. Well, they seem to have done so because the cosmic microwave background radiation fluctuations are so minuscule. And so this idea of cosmic inflation was proposed as a solution to this. Now, this is still a proposed solution. It's not set in stone. But the problem is that it doesn't violate any of the laws of physics, whereas seeing light from more than 6,000 years ago, if the Earth is only 6,000 years old, or sorry, the universe is only 6,000 years ago, does violate a very important law of physics. So by saying it's a bigger problem, I don't see how it is. Plus, no matter what the problem is, it doesn't negate the fact that when you run the math for the universe, so that basically you're turning the time arrow backwards to see what happened in the past at large scales, the entire universe converges towards a singularity as time goes back. So, regardless of the horizon problem with the cosmic microwave background radiation, it doesn't actually negate the fact that, one, the universe is billions of years old, and that, two, it started from a hot, dense state, and then it expanded into our current relatively cool and sparse state. Like, it doesn't change that at all.
13 billion years ago, expansion started. Wait, the Earth began to cool, the autotrophs began to drool?
Well, so kind of, because more like 13.8, and also there are no autotrophs that drool, because autotrophs are organisms that make their own food, whereas the animals, only animals drool, and animals are heterotrophs, which means that the song is, in fact, sadly inaccurate in numerous ways.
We're going to have to bring that up with the Bare Naked Ladies.
Yeah, we probably should.
Yeah.
They really need some notes about that whole song. As well as the entire cast and crew of The Big Bang Theory, which, you know.
Listen, I've got a bone to pick with them about magnetic monopoles.
I also have a bone to pick with them about their lack of insistence on correct Klingon pronunciation. Yeah.
Unacceptable.
Yeah, despite actually getting some fairly decent translations in terms of the grammar, no one ever went in to tell them how to pronounce any of these things. So
that's upsetting.
It is a little upsetting, especially since Paramount is currently doing better than they are, and Paramount usually does really, really badly with Klingon. Or at least they did in the so-called Golden Age of Trek, which was basically Next Generation through to the end of Enterprise.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So much worse for them. It's so funny. They do the same thing with these molecular clocks, right? We find that the mutation rate is extremely fast, and they go, ha, but it doesn't land on the date that you need it.
What? I'm not even sure what he's getting at.
I'm not sure what he's getting at either. Probably he's confusing the idea that, like, hey, this mutation rate is actually kind of fast. It's like, yeah, but not fast enough for what you need.
Yeah, generally it's not. Let's let him cook a little bit.
I think he's misunderstanding some of the criticism that's been levied at him.
Yeah, probably.
It's like, wait a minute. You need it to land somewhere around 200,000 years ago or millions of years ago.
For what? You can't
For
just...
what? Well,
molecular clocks
Dom,
don't
remember-
just stop at some point in the past. What is he talking about?
yeah, well, remember that like a couple, this was either last time or the time before, when he was talking about mutation rates, and one, he was confusing. He was saying that there would be like 26 differences, like individual point mutation differences between him and like another human. I was like, I'm sorry, what? That's not anywhere close.
Yeah.
Right. And then it was talking about like how many point right? So he's really confusing point mutations, like differences between individuals, and when the mutation becomes fixed in the population. So he doesn't understand the difference between that. Those are two different clocks. And using his fixation rates, or I don't know if that's probably not the right term, but the term about like getting the problem is he really doesn't understand genetic clocks. I mean, I clearly don't understand them very well either, but like if we used his rate at which mutations become fixed in a population, you don't get the genetic diversity you see now in 4,000 years, right? Since the flood.
I think DM current issues in Science Wing is correct, and he's talking about mitochondrial Eve and Y chromosome Adam.
Oh.
Okay, so let's go over a few things. Well, first, this is extremely stupid, so we're gonna take a drink for it. So
hold on here. Hold on, baby girl.
Okay.
Hold on,
so,
baby.
There's a few things. One, the molecular clock is something that does not just work for mitochondrial and Y chromosome parts of the genome. It is easiest to use it in those areas because those areas of the genome are generally not subject to crossover. Mitochondrial DNA is almost never subject to crossover, and Y chromosome crossover events are so vanishingly rare as to be discountable. It is once in a great while that there can be a tiny bit of crossover between an X chromosome and a Y chromosome, but those changes tend not to persist generation to generation, so it basically doesn't matter. So, as a result of the non-crossing over of those chromosomes, they are the relatively easiest to trace back to a common ancestor. However, the entire genome has some coalescence time, right, where you get back to when did the most recent common ancestor of this part of the genome exist. And so we could find a quote-unquote Adam or Eve for any part of the genome. It just takes more work, and it's less precise when you're doing the autosomal DNA, which are the DNA and the chromosomes that do have crossover events. Because crossover events where genetic material is swapped between the two chromosomes of the same kind complicates matters. So, Ron Matt here, if he is in fact talking about mitochondrial Eve and Y chromosome Adam, is drawing on the work of Nathaniel Jeanson of Answers in Genesis. Now, Nathaniel Jeanson does a number of things that are wildly inappropriate. One of the first ones that he does is that he confuses, or actually he doesn't even confuse, he just openly admits that he is using the mutation rate as the substitution rate. Now, the substitution rate is the rate at which alleles fix in a population per year. Now, we're going to go through what allele is. So, this is something that's usually covered in high school biology classes, but I know most people don't remember all of their high school biology. So, if you have a gene, that gene codes for some protein. Now, there's a lot of other bits of DNA that aren't genes, but that are very important, like promoter regions and all sorts of stuff like that, right? So, but we're going to simplify it down and just talk about genes for now. So, if you have a gene that, say, controls hair color. Now, almost all traits actually have more than one gene that affects them, but we're just simplifying here. So let's say you had a gene that controls hair color. And so if you have two people with two different hair colors, that means that they must have two different alleles, assuming that they both are displaying their natural hair color. So we're discounting, dye jobs and whatnot, right? Because obviously, I don't think if you dye your hair like electric blue, that's part of your genome. That's a behavioral thing that you've done. So, assuming natural hair colors, and assuming the incorrect but simplified idea that one gene controls hair colors, the people who have different hair colors will have a different allele for that gene. Now, when a mutation, which causes a new allele by definition, becomes such that it is encountered in every member of the population in consideration, it is said to have fixed or reached fixation. Right? That just means 100% of the people have it. Now, the rate at which this happens is called the substitution rate. The mutation rate is a different thing. The mutation rate is how many mutations happen per reproductive event, and this can be measured in either individual cell duplications or in actual reproductive events in terms of multicellular organisms, right? So from like mother to child to grandchild, or father to child to grandchild, right? Parent, sorry, is probably what I should have said.
Parent to child, yeah.
Yeah. I think I got the mother bit stuck in there because you just had a baby on screen.
I did just have the baby on screen, and I laid her back down, and she's protesting, but I think she's back asleep. She has approximately 6 stuffed animals tucked underneath her.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Oh, I did want to say, you're doing a really great job explaining this. If anybody wants more in detail and specifically on genes and stuff, Dr. Dan over at Creation Myths talks about that a lot. So if that's something you're super curious, and that's also Dr. Dan's field. And so that's a great resource if you want a lot of in-depth on this.
Absolutely. Okay, so now Nathaniel Jeanson is taking that mutation rate, and he's using a measure of generation time for humans, which is already pretty low in his estimation, right? So he's exaggerating the number of generations likely. And he's turning that mutation rate that is measured into a per year mutation rate, and then pretending that that's the substitution rate. But the problem is that the substitution rate is going to always be lower for a number of reasons. So, for instance, let's say you measure that between a parent and their child, there are 100 mutations, which is actually a pretty normal number for humans, right? Okay, well then that child goes on to reproduce. Not all 100 of those mutations will be passed down for a number of reasons. One is, generally speaking, when you do DNA testing, you aren't normally sampling people's gonads. You're normally sampling things like blood or saliva, right? And if a mutation happened in your somatic cells that did not make it to your germline cells as you're dividing as an embryo, well then that mutation will be captured on the DNA test, but not in any reproductive events, because that mutation simply won't be there in your germline cells. Now, this is a bigger issue for the mother to child than it is for the father to child, because men continuously produce more gametes, and so there are more chances for mutations to accumulate in there. So you do get a higher mutation rate when you have older people siring kids, or, well, older organisms generally. At least with animals generally. Anyway, but that's not a significant factor here. So, and also there's things like, well, what if one of the mutations is deleterious? Which means that over time, the chances are that that mutation is going to reduce in frequency in the population. Because that's what it means to be deleterious, right? It means you're less reproductively successful as a result of this allele. So it has to go down.
We can use a really easy thought. There's a disease that is cystic fibrosis. It's recessive, and it's pretty simple, right? It kind of, in terms of the genetics, it follows the same, like the little squares you learned in like high school, right? So if only one parent has the gene, kid's not getting it. If both parents have the gene, there's a 25% chance of the kid getting it, because they need 2 copies of the recessive gene, right? If the parent has cystic fibrosis and the partner doesn't have the gene, the kid isn't getting it, right? If the parent, anyway, but so basically, if both parents have the recessive gene, there's a 25% chance that the kid gets it. So that's a mutation that exists within the human population. I don't think it's fixed, because not all humans have cystic fibrosis.
It's definitely not fixed. That would require every single human to be homozygous for the cystic fibrosis allele.
Right. So that's just an easy way to think that, like, oh, okay, there can be mutations that exist in individuals, right, that are even widespread in the human population. They're not fixed, because not every human has it, right? So every human has eyes, not every human has brown eyes. So the genes for making eyes are fixed, but the genes for making brown eyes are not.
Now, there's also a statistical phenomenon happening, wherein so genetic drift basically is changes in allele frequency that are a result of essentially stochastic aspects, right? So it could just be how likely a gene is to spread in any given reproductive event over the whole population, or it could just be some kind of accidental thing, right? Like if you have a large portion of the population living near some volcano and it explodes and it, gets rid of the entire population near that volcano. Well, there was nothing about their alleles that necessarily made them that much more or less likely to survive that event. So chances are that's going to be a stochastic thing. Now, the chances of any mutation coming to fixation can be estimated by taking the number of organisms with that mutation over the number of organisms in the population under consideration. Now, if a brand new mutation happens, that means it's 1 over the population size.
Yeah.
So if humans have say an 8 billion human population size and you have a brand new mutation in you, the chances of that reaching fixation in the human population is 1 in 8 billion, which means probably not. Now, even if we consider subpopulations, right? Like let's say we consider say an island that only has 500 or 600 inhabitants, right? And it's relatively isolated.
And it's isolated and nobody comes or leaves.
Still, a new mutation still only has like a 1 in several hundred chance of reaching fixation in that population. So when you combine all of these things, what it means is that over an extended period of time, your substitution rate is going to be way, way slower than your time-adjusted mutation rate, which is what GeneSyn is doing, and which is what apparently RawMat is picking up on. So when you actually use measured substitution rates, which we can do because we do have isolated populations that have known historical divergence times in places like the Canary Islands, Tristan da Cunha, to some extent Madagascar, things like that, we can actually measure the substitution rates. And when we do that, we actually do find out that mitochondrial Eve and mitochondrial Adam lived hundreds of thousands of years ago, not thousands of years ago.
And specifically, lived hundreds of thousands of years ago, not at the same time, and were not, like, sexually...
Almost certainly not at the same time. The very extreme ends of the range of possibilities for their time frames do technically overlap. But, like, it's like they both have, like, serve, like, a few thousand years of or actually, no, it's a few tens of thousands of years either side. And there's, like, an overlap of, like, a few hundred years in there. It's like, okay, well, almost certainly not. And even if they did overlap in terms of time, which is very unlikely, they still almost certainly never met each other.
Exactly. So it's a common misconception that mitochondrial Eve, Y chromosome Adam, young Earth creationists often make the mistake of thinking of them as that we're referring to a specific couple, not 2 wildly different people.
Yeah, there's
never met and are probably separated by thousands of years.
Yeah, there's no expectation that 2 people who are the common ancestor of different parts of the genome would have mated together to cause that. That's not required. It's not even expected.
Suppose me and a man who currently lives in, I don't know, Seoul, South Korea, right, are in a couple 100,000 years the mitochondrial Eve and Y chromosome to Adam, right? That can be true, and I never meet that guy, right? That's, anyway.
Also, cool city. I like it. I would like to go back someday.
Nice.
Yeah, I spent a couple weeks there once.
And it's like me saying, oh man, you're 5 years off your birthday, when I'm like 100 years off what I'm supposed to be guessing.
Oh my goodness, I'm taking a drink.
Tell us a drink, and then I want to talk about what I think what I think he's misunderstanding.
Well, also, I just want to point out, Matt is routinely off by a factor of like 750,000.
Yeah, we give him 1 or even 2 orders of magnitude out of charity.
And he's still usually wrong.
Right. So, okay. So, there's the problem he's running into, right, is that if we use his numbers, right, which are wrong, the numbers are fully wrong.
Categorically wrong, as long as humans have allele frequency variation in their populations.
Right. Which we do. We're not clones.
Turns out.
So he's very wrong. But if we ignore that numbers, his numbers don't get you back to Noah, right? They don't get you the genetic diversity that you need in just the 4,000 years since the time of Noah, right? In humans or any other species.
They don't
because-
overall. They kind of do for mitochondrial and Y chromosome
Oh,
DNA,
okay.
but for autosomal DNA, they definitely don't, because there are way too many alleles in the autosomal chromosomes, basically. So like X and then all the other numbered chromosomes have way too much variation.
So there's one way where we would say, well, the numbers that he's giving us are way too fast. It's insane, right? But they're not fast enough to get you Noah,
No,
right?
they're
So
not.
they're way too fast given reality, right? But not fast enough to make his story work.
Yeah.
So I think that's where, like, that's the double-sided criticism, where his numbers are both too fast and not fast enough, that I think he
It's almost like the
intentionally,
story,
deliberately or otherwise, doesn't understand.
It's almost like the story is fundamentally incompatible with reality when taken literally.
It's almost like it wasn't meant to be taken literally.
I mean, I'm not going to speak to the authorial intent of the authors of Genesis, but I will say that it definitely isn't literally true. And you definitely shouldn't take it that way.
Not. Yeah.
It doesn't even make any sense. They're pointing to something to try to handwave and distract from the fact that they have a huge problem of their own. And
I mean, not with molecular clocks, we don't, but
no,
okay.
we sure don't.
It doesn't match up. And they're trying to point at us that we have a problem with it when we have answers to all of these things. There's not really an issue. And but most of this stuff is new. It's only been recently discovered.
By which she means Nathaniel Jeeson only recently published his book, which I guess is technically true.
Technically true. I'm taking a drink.
Oh, hey, yeah, good point. I'll take a drink. Of course, one of the problems with this is that even other young Earth creationists aren't taking Jeeson seriously. Basically, the only young Earth creationists who are taking Nathaniel Jeeson seriously are the ones who don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, Robert Carter is a PhD geneticist. He's not taking it seriously. Even what's her name? The geneticist that works for Georgia Purdom. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Georgia Purdom. I mean, she's not openly criticizing Nathaniel Jeeson, but she's also not using any of his material that I'm aware of in any of her talks or her articles or anything like that. She's just ignoring it, and I think it's because she's too embarrassed to use it because she knows it's nonsense. It doesn't work. Also, I want to point out that even with Nathaniel Jeeson's numbers, if you include the Neanderthals, which remember, AIG thinks are the descendants of Noah, even with Nathaniel Jeeson's crazy rates, it pushes the convergence time for Y chromosome Adam way past the arc, which is a problem because Nathaniel Jeeson says, oh, we don't have reliable Y chromosome data for Neanderthals, except the thing is, if that were true, then we couldn't actually reach a consensus genome for Neanderthals with any level of confidence, but we have. So unless he's going to redo the statistics on Neanderthal genome sequencing and show why, in fact, everyone who's done it previously has gotten their confidence intervals wrong, and I mean everyone who's done it, then his math just doesn't work because it requires Neanderthals to be descendants of Noah, and that math just doesn't work out because we know what the Y chromosome of Neanderthals is like, and it's got way too much divergence at the time that Neanderthals are supposed to have gone extinct, according to young Earth creationists, for it to fit into that biblical timeline that Jeeson is proposing. So, it's got huge problems. There's a reason that no one is taking Nathaniel Jeeson's work seriously, and by that I mean even other young Earth creationists. Ken Ham is basically the only person promoting this apart from Jeeson himself and a few Muslim apologists who are doing so primarily in Arabic while translating Jeeson's YouTube videos, which is a weirdly niche thing, but it's happening. And I guess there might also be some Arabic-speaking Christians who are involved there too, but I don't know that. I do know for a fact that it's primarily being spearheaded by Muslim apologists. And I mean, look, Jeeson would probably rather have you be a young Earth creationist Muslim than be a non-theist of any kind, right? So he probably thinks that, young Earth creationism overall spreading is a good thing, and he would probably rather have you be some kind of theist than no kind of theist. So he probably thinks of these Muslim apologists as like allies of convenience. So
yeah, I can, especially since it's like technically an Abrahamic faith.
I mean, hey, they even believe Jesus is the Jewish Messiah.
Yeah.
So, Command Cyborg, who's been a member for 34 months and is at the annual level, says, AIG are in Kassa Slakam and Arga Manslamar, which is Swedish, which, in case you can't tell, I have no idea how to pronounce. And, I mean, look, I've already got a full plate with the languages that I kind of know, right? Like French and Spanish and Klingon and Latin and Greek and all the other bunch, so I'm probably not pushing to learn this one. However, there is a drink and a Godzilla and a Go Team much, which all of that adds together to we're taking a drink. Thank you very much, Command Cyborg.
Amazing.
All right, here we go.
So creation is stronger than it's ever been.
Okay, Matt.
Okay, continue.
And evolution is weaker than it's ever been.
Wow, that's awesome.
Citation needed.
Yeah, we're gonna need a big old citation for that one, buddy. Because
yeah.
Not...
I like that. My response was just I snort laugh.
Yeah, basically,
I cannot do that on command.
It's the only appropriate response, really, is to snort laugh. In fact, like, I actually have to write into my script. If something the creation says actually makes me laugh out loud while script writing, I have to note that in my script so that I can laugh during the video. Because anytime I actually break into laughter because of how ridiculous something someone says is, I have to have that as my actual reaction in a script. Because otherwise it doesn't feel authentic. All right, we're going to hit play.
Someone asked, are animals not evolving as they change over time?
I guess he has a Q&A. Maybe they had a live chat for this. I don't really know.
Yeah.
Of course, the answer is yes, they are evolving as they change over time. Because remember, the definition for what counts as evolution is a change in the allele frequencies in a population over time. So anytime that happens for any reason, it is evolution. Now, that things evolve is not on its own like sufficient evidence to conclude other aspects of evolution are true, like universal common descent, right? Like, things could evolve and then universal common descent not be true. That could be fine. Now, currently,
things
the
could
evidence...
evolve in the Big Bang Theory could not be true.
Right.
Right.
Currently, that's not where the evidence is pointing, but, like, there's nothing that's, like, ontologically contradictory about that idea.
Yeah.
All right, so here we go.
Yeah.
For example, woolly mammoth to an elephant?
No, actually.
No.
Woolly mammoths are elephants. Their closest living relatives are Elephas maximus, which is the Asian elephant, which makes them within the group of elephants, because remember, modern elephants are Loxodonta africana, Loxodonta cyclotis, and Elephas maximus. Those are the 3 species of elephant. Which means if something is closer to one of those species than it is to the other 2, that thing itself must be an elephant. And since mammoths, woolly mammoths, well, all mammoths, right? All members of...
Yeah, you guys are getting all sorts. This is what, when I stream inside, it's more chaotic, but we get more stream buddies.
Hi. Is he being a good boy?
He's so good. And you don't even understand how this is the only way Chester can be perceived by strangers, because he does not like strangers, but he doesn't know there's a camera on him right now.
Oh, yeah, he can't comprehend that. He has no idea there's 121 strangers looking at him right now.
Yeah, he just knows he's getting some ear rubs by one of his safe people.
Aw.
Yeah, okay.
My Unfinished Journey for $2 says, Dava Paver Shavud Laverne Avenglavish. No. Now, someone pointed out Mastodons. Mastodons are not elephants. Mastodons are actually outside the family Elephantidae. But anyway, yeah, so anything that's a mammoth is closer to Elephas maximus than it is to Loxodonta of either species, making them elephants. So yeah, just putting that out there.
A great question. Okay, we do see speciation. That's fine.
Take a drink. That's true. We do see speciation.
That's true.
Which is, in fact, macroevolution.
But speciation has limits.
I would love to know what they are.
Why?
Right? We can take a wolf and we can breed all kinds of dogs from it.
Which isn't speciation, so I'm going to just take a drink for Raw Matt's example of speciation not being speciation, but what else could I possibly expect from a breatharian?
That's true. Like, just to be very clear, if we took a wolf can breed with a dog, right? And you can get animals that are like half wolf, half dog, right? But wolves and dogs are different. I mean, they're different species. They have different.
They're in dogs are their own subspecies of gray wolf.
Oh, sorry, subspecies. That's what I was getting. I was thinking Canis familiaris versus Canis lupus.
Canis familiaris is now an invalid taxon.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind. Don't listen to me. Not my field.
Katina Pack-Bays was just gifted a membership by Dr. Tapioca Weasel, so we will take a drink. Thank you very much, Dr. Tapioca Weasel.
Congrats.
So, there actually was a recent official rule change that was to recognize a long-standing trend among taxonomists, which was to say that a domesticated species that has to be a subspecies of the wild type, provided that they can still, do species things.
Okay, they can
and
still.
That if they were formerly had their own specific designation, it becomes their new subspecific definition. So, for instance, Canis lupus used to contrast with Canis familiaris, the gray wolf versus the dog. But since they are actually fundamentally the same species, and that the dog is a subset of the gray wolf population, even genetically, they are in fact officially recognized as Canis lupus familiaris. Same thing with what is it? Felis catus, which was the domesticated cat. Well, it turns out that Felis catus is in fact a subpopulation of Felis sylvestris, the African wildcat. So now the proper scientific designation for the domesticated cat is Felis sylvestris catus. So
I love it. Love it, love it, love it.
Now, there are a few organisms that I don't believe have changed. Like, I think honeybees are still Apis mellifera, because I don't think that there is a separate wild-type species with a previous binomial designation.
Okay.
So there are a few domesticated species that have not, as far as I know, changed their designation because there's no other designation that they are a subset of.
Okay.
So,
gotcha.
Which means I believe...
By the way, like, I love this. Like, I legitimately learned something tonight. And that's what's so much fun about science, right? Is that it changes and it updates. And as we learn more, we do better, right? And that's what's great about science. So that's also something that young Earth creationists like hate about science and think is a drawback from it, is that it self-corrects.
How
but that's
dare science get less wrong? What is wrong with them?
How boring would it be if all we had to do was like memorize a bunch of stuff when we're in school and they're like, great, I learned all of science. Now what? No. Like, the world is so much more interesting than that. And so like I'm so happy that I got something wrong and learned and was corrected, right? Like, in a nice way, you know what I mean? Nobody's yelling at me for being out of date on my taxa when I'm not a biologist.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect you to be up to date on the latest updates to, like, the taxonomy rules.
Yeah, but, like, just like I wouldn't expect anybody here to be up to date on, like, oh my gosh, I don't know, classifications of Arctic cyclones, or even know the difference between an Arctic cyclone and a polar vortex.
I sure don't.
Right?
By the way, though, I do have a request about weather, which is if you could lower the humidity around here, because I had to run my laundry through the dryer twice, and I'm not used to that. Yeah, it was unfortunate.
Okay.
Because normally my dryer gets a huge boost from the fact that it's always like 40 Celsius or more out, and the fact that the relative humidity is rarely climbs above like 8%. So, that's really fast drying. But today, where it was a little chilly and it was a little high humidity, I had to run my clothes through twice, and I don't like that. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, I'll have a talk with the guys at the weather machine controls and see what we can do.
Thank you. Now, Scott Duke for $4.99 US says, AIG is an overstuffed shopping bag of those appendages that eggplants symbolize. I love your larval human, Madie. Thank you very much, and we'll take a drink.
Thanks. I love her too. I think she's perfect and good.
Absolutely. Yeah, Harp will get right on that, says Tesla Ranger. Good. The guys at Harp need to...
Harp 1 is closed down, and 2...
That's what they want you to think, Madie.
It's a radar array that looks up instead of horizontally.
Yeah, that's all just the stuff that they want you to tell us, and you're in on
Oh
it.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
I
in on
mean,
it.
well, I
Oh,
mean,
I
you're
didn't.
like a meteorology, like what, doctoral candidate?
Yeah,
Yeah, so you're clearly in on it. They don't let you get that high without being in on it.
huh?
Yeah.
Where's my shill check?
Oh, you have to wait till the actual PhD for that.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
more reasons to defend.
Mhm. Yep.
Okay.
But we can't take a dog and breed back the wolf. We see.
I mean,
Sure, we could.
it still is a wolf, and I mean,
Right, it's like if what you mean by that is lose the domesticated features, right? Then let some dogs loose, especially if they can interact with wolves,
yeah.
right?
Well, and I mean, to some degree, the dingo is essentially a dog that has turned largely back into a wolf in the sense that it is now a primarily non-human dependent animal that hunts in the wild and survives in the
Yeah.
wild. Now, is it identical to its wolf ancestors? No, it's still distinctly a dog, right? It has distinct dog genetic traits. It has distinct dog anatomical features. For instance, it has a curlier tail than gray wolves. Its coat colors are tawny and not the typical grays and blacks and interspersed reddish hairs that you get in a
Mhm.
gray wolf. It still has the extra facial muscles of a dog, because I don't know if you know, but dogs have more facial muscles than wolves do. Specifically, so they can make their eyes look more cute when interacting with humans, so that humans are more likely to treat them well and give them food.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Dogs evolved more muscles specifically to look cute, and I love it.
It's the reason we love dogs.
Yeah. So, like,
But here's a great example. Because if we take away so much of dogs have been intentionally bred, right?
mhm.
And like of that domestication process. But if you take like domesticated cats, right, who domesticated themselves,
Yeah, they're barely
um,
domesticated on top of that.
they're barely domestic and like reintroduce them to the wild, like I'm pretty sure you would get something like you would have broader genetic diversity from like the African
I mean, feral cats are already a huge invasive problem all over the world, in every
yeah,
place basically that isn't like Eurasia and
yeah,
Africa.
yeah. So like explain to me the difference between a feral cat and um the African wild cats, is that what you said?
Yeah, they're slightly less scared of humans is basically it.
Yeah, that's it. Because sometimes, do you want to get back up here, buddy?
Aw.
Yeah. Here, sorry, we got a Chester.
Oh, hi, Chester.
Yeah, don't perceive me.
Don't worry, only 130 people can perceive you.
Yeah.
Loss. We see degradation. So here's
That's another thing.
Citation needed.
What does that? Yeah, what does that mean? Now, I will grant you that there are breeds with extremely small gene pools that are relatively unhealthy as a result of humans not really caring about overall animal health and instead just breeding for particular, like, gross morphological types.
Right, like squished face.
Right, squished faces, or you want a particular weirdly sloping back in your German Shepherds for some reason, which gives them horrible hip dysplasia, or like all you really want are those blue eyes and that white coat with black spots, and it just so happens that now, like, most of your Dalmatians are completely deaf for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Probably linked to the blue eyes, because in carnivorans, blue eyes are associated with deafness in many cases.
Yeah.
You know.
But your eyes are brown and pretty. Yeah.
Now, I don't want to say that's all cases, right? There are blue-eyed carnivorans that are not deaf. Snow leopards come to mind as a carnivoran species that not infrequently has blue eyes, but does not have any particularly high rate of hearing impairment. But yeah, there's all these things. But the thing is,
because basically what he's saying is like if you took like that and say like a genetically isolated population of humans. So what's that one island that's still like at the Stone Age level of technology?
I mean, it's not just one, but the one that most people think of is North Sentinel Island.
Yeah, so if we think of like the population of North Sentinel Island, they are genetically separated from the rest of the human population, right? In a similar way that, say, golden retrievers are genetically separated from wolves. But the people of North Sentinel Island are just as human as you and I, right? That population might be more likely than the general population to have specific traits, right? Because it's genetically isolated. But also, weight 10 million years. And maybe that, and and if and then those two populations might be like fully reproductively isolated and they can't reproduce with each other, right? Then you would have two different species. That's how you start to get a new species.
Also, unlike golden retrievers, who are generally not subject to natural selection and are instead subject to weird artificial selection, the population of North Sentinel Island is not like that. And in fact, if they have some kind of overall, some mutation that overall lowers their health, that particular mutation is unlikely to survive because it will impact their reproductive success. Because they don't have some intelligent agent saying, okay, look, I know you're going to get hip dysplasia in like a year or two, but you can still have litters of puppies, so I'm going to breed you anyway because you have the coat I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So.
Or you could imagine, suppose that the population of North Sentinel Island, gets like an immunity to a specific disease that no one else has any immunity to, right? Then they might be the only humans left. Who knows?
Dr. Tapioca Weasel, who's been a member for 22 months, says, Dapper, Tetrapod, Kent, Godzilla, Murphy, Mothra, so we'll take a drink for at least two of those. And then also says, yo, we should make a Dapper Dino subreddit, and then we can all share the thing there in addition to the other places we share. I mean, go for it. I don't really use Reddit much, so I'm probably not going to take a lead on that. But I mean, hey, make a Dapper Dino subreddit.
Love it. I need a place to start. Listen, I'm supposed to defend at the end of March, and then I'm going to look at getting back into doing streams on my own channel. And I really want to start collecting videos and papers that's the intersection of young Earth creationism and climate change. So if you guys make a Dapper Dino subreddit, dump any of that intersection you find there.
Yeah,
please.
Definitely. All right, here we go.
We can take a dog and we can make a pure breed out of it. And let's.
Okay, but that's literally just defining it as a pure breed and petitioning a kennel association to recognize you, right? It's not a real thing. It's just a thing, that people have just created of their own free will, right? Like, there's nothing particularly...
Human brains.
Yeah.
It's human brains making categories because we like to categorize things. That's like we
and
love to do it.
Artificially enforcing the categories thereafter.
Which can be something that we tend to do. That's not necessarily a good thing to keep doing.
No, it's not.
But like recognizing the human need to categorize and also recognizing the inherent failing of all categorization systems, right? It's like the idea of like words, right? Define a book. We all know what a book is, but like if you try to make a specific definition that includes all things that are books and excludes all things that aren't, then it's going to break.
Yeah, you get to weird edge cases like large pamphlets versus small books. And you're like, where's the cutoff? I don't know.
Right. Is an empty journal that's bound a book? But what about an audiobook? Right.
Well, there I would say we're actually using two different definitions of book, and that it is a book under one definition and not a book under the other. Because on the one hand, we have the definition that refers to the physical object, and then we have another definition that refers to the actual content of the literary work that we call a book.
Yes.
So, for instance, when I say I publish a book, I don't mean that I had one copy of paper bound in a cover that I had printed out, and that's it.
But if we think about a historical document, if that blank journal is then filled with handwritten, like maybe it's a handwritten journal, right? That now becomes a book.
In the second sense.
In the second sense. Anyway.
Yeah, it's almost like reality doesn't super care about human categories, but humans can just enforce them anyway.
Yes, that's what he's arguing. He's like going to get mad about categories.
Say that we take and we make a pit bull and we breed out all long hair. So now they only have a little bit of short hair. That means that at these genetic loci, these genes...
It's usually loci, but I'm not going to get too bad. Of all the things he's mispronounced, that's not that bad.
I will say in math, we say loci.
Boo.
Sorry. Or at least I do. Maybe I'm just wrong.
Well, I still say boo.
they only contain the recessive traits to carry short hair. So they no longer.
I would need a citation to say that short hair alleles in dogs are always recessive, because I've never seen anything indicating that. Granted, I'm not exactly an expert on dog hair genetics, but like, you can't just declare that they're recessive. I don't know how he comes to that conclusion. I can guarantee you it's not because he's done an in-depth study of dog hair genetics, because Raw Matt has never done an in-depth study of anything real.
No.
Carry the dominant alleles, or any allele for that matter, because they're homozygous at these gene sites, to ever grow long hair again.
Well, except that you can have a mutation that actually increases coat length.
Yeah.
And
if you took all those pit bulls and moved them to Siberia, waited a while.
Yeah, they if one of them had a mutation for longer hair, that would probably come to dominate that population. Chris McDaniel, who's been a member for 12 months and is at the ambient level, says, I'm an admitted bibliophile with a Godzilla and a Mothra. We'll take a drink. And hey, there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you keep it in control and you don't become just like a book hoarder who needs to have an intervention like hoarder style.
I look anxiously around because you're seeing some of my bookshelves in the background.
So here's the thing. They're not causing precarious piles that could topple over and kill someone.
That's true.
So you're not at the hoarders
did actually
level.
have to move some to storage because we now have a mobile.
Nice.
The baby's mobile.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But look, when I say hoarder style, I mean like the show Hoarders, where like there are precarious and potentially fatal piles of junk.
No. I would never treat a book that poorly.
Fair enough.
That's the... Yeah.
They get forced into this region. So that's essentially what happened with mammoth, right?
What?
We have the mammoth genome. They have novel alleles that are not found anywhere else in Elephantidae. Like, they're not just lower genetic elephants.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
is he going to say it's just like elephants now lost the ability to make long hair, and that's going to be his argument for...
I think he's going to argue that mammoths have less genetic diversity than modern elephants because they're genetically degraded. I think that's what he's going to go with.
I think he's going to argue the following. I think he's going to argue that elephants, right, mammoths included, used to have more information, right, which is why mammoths can have long hair, but modern elephants lost that information.
Okay.
Right? So now they can only have short.
Now
that's the argument he's making.
We have competing predictions, which means chances are we're going to drink for it.
True.
They were a species of elephant that were on the ark. They got off.
Okay, so he thinks that mammoths were a separate species from other elephants on the ark, which is weird because normally creationists would identify the family as the kind level and say that it only took 2 members of each family normally. But okay, sure, we'll let him go.
They went north. They had dominant traits for very long hair, which was good because they were living in the cold. They died out because they lived in the tundra, right? You don't have much food there.
I mean, there was obviously enough for a whole population of elephants, so like, why?
We're not going to go with
Matt?
Climate change? We're not going to go with and by which I mean just the natural climate change, right?
Yeah. I guess not.
Okay.
So just like the humans that migrated there, that they call Neanderthal, they died out as well because it was a bad choice.
Oh, jeez. I'm just taking a drink. I'm not even going to address the fact that there's no choices involved in this.
And so what happened to these, we're left with their recessive traits. So yes, speciation is...
Yeah, no, we're left with their recessive traits. So I think he does mean that elephants lost all those genetic traits that mammoths... Yeah. Which is weird, but okay.
Which is weird, because why would elephants have that if they were already a different species when they were on the ark?
Yeah, and also, what would induce them to lose all this genetic diversity? And also, does he have any genetic studies that actually indicate that, say, like, Elephas maximus, the most closely related species to mammoths, has some dearth of genetic diversity compared to mammoths? I mean, I've never seen such a study.
Does he have any proof that, like, any evidence... There's, like, all these places where Neanderthals lived that humans didn't, right? where all the Neanderthals died and there was no people there.
I'm not aware of any such information. In fact, I'm not aware of
Right.
any significant
'Cause
population of Neanderthals going extinct before Homo sapiens getting there.
Because that's what he just said, right?
Yeah.
Is Neanderthals are the people, are the Homo sapiens who went north and were adapted to that, but then they didn't have food, so they all died.
Yeah.
So that's,
Hey,
I'm
we've
taking a drink
gone
for that,
way.
'cause
Yeah,
I
we'll take a
just-
drink, but we've gone way past our normal break time. So I'm going to take a
Oh,
drink.
we sure
We're going to take a
have.
quick
Okay.
quick break. I'll grab another beer, and we'll be right back.
I'm here.
While we go on break, please enjoy the musical stylings of Beethoven. Okay, we are back. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for sticking with me, which most of you did. I really do appreciate it. Okay, so before we really get...
Guys, don't make him be Bilbo. Be sure to like.
Well, they currently are not in danger of Bilbo right now.
Okay, I have the YouTube stream up, but like on a different screen. And I liked it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so...
I mean, because I like myself, so...
Obviously.
Obvi. Oh my god.
So, before we get right back into it, I just want to say a few quick things. The first of which is, as I'm sure most of you know who have been here before, but if you're new, or maybe it's been a while, you might not remember, this channel is almost entirely supported through the support of direct pledges, memberships, and Patreon, stuff like that, from you, my audience, right? Almost nothing comes in directly from things like ads on YouTube. It's usually significantly less than like a fifth of what the channel brings in month to month. And so if you like this channel, you want it to persist, you want it to grow, you want me to be able to do more, or just generally, you know, have a slightly nicer standard of living, you know, be nice. The best way to do that is to support directly financially, and the best way to do that is either joining the channel memberships, which so many of you have, and I really appreciate that, or the Patreon, which again, many of you have. The Patreon is the way that I keep the most out of your pledge, so it's the one that I would, you know, most heavily encourage.
And on Patreon, you can pledge annually for a 20% discount.
15.
Sorry.
Yep.
I was guessing, but I was guessing confidently.
Yes, it is 15. Do not expect a 20% discount. You will be disappointed, I promise.
You can yell at me, it's fine.
Yeah, it's her fault, not mine. I didn't defraud
entirely.
you. That was her.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but there's also the channel memberships. The Patreon starts...
access to unique emojis. It starts at only $1.99 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were a channel member for a long enough time, you get cool little like avatars that go after your name. You get to be green in chat. It's a whole exciting thing.
It's very cool.
You get access to months worth of videos that you can binge when you need to remember that you are in fact smart and not dumb, because your dissertation makes you feel really stupid.
Yeah, so like right now, if I just go to my my like content page on my studio and I sort by things that are unlisted, which is where my early access stuff goes. Like, let's see, scrolling down to where it starts. I've got a 47-minute video, a 34-minute video, hour and 17-minute video, 51-minute video, 50-minute video, 39-minute video, 44-minute, 46, 43-minute video, a 44-minute video, a 51-minute video, a 1 hour and 9-minute video, a 52-minute video, a 50-minute video, a 48-minute video, a 52, a 44, a 2 hour and 21-minute video, a 55-minute video, and a 41-minute video that you could just be binging right now.
And listen, folks, it's the holidays. You're going to be traveling. You're going to be with your family. And you might find that stressful and be like, I wish I had my buddy Dapper with me right now, talking to me, hanging out with me, developing a parasocial relationship.
Okay, well, hold up.
And you can accomplish that. You can accomplish those dreams of Dapper personally saving you from family drama. Because you're like, I can't, my friend needs me. I have to go watch this video right now.
Okay, but do remember that I cannot tell that you're watching my videos, and so I will have no memory of this. Because it didn't actually happen to me.
But he knows.
No, I don't. Don't.
The analytics tell him so.
Also, DM Current Issues in Science Wing says, only flans when? Well, when I get better at making flan.
Ooh, it was my mom's birthday recently, and I made her creme brulee, and I make a mean creme brulee. It was so good.
That's like gringo flan.
It is gringo flan, yeah.
Okay, so there's a few other things. If an annual or a monthly pledge isn't your thing, but you still want to help out, there is a merch store. You can get t-shirts, you can get baby onesies, you can get blankets, pillows, phone cases, stickers, mugs, blankets, beach towels, I don't know what else. There's basically anything Teespring sells, except I think leggings, because I couldn't get my art to look good on leggings.
Sorry. I can imagine all the bad placement for your art.
Yeah,
and
there
that
was
making
no
you
good
laugh.
place on the leggings, and I was just like, nope, because I don't want anyone to wear anything like any of the options that I'm being presented with for leggings. So no.
You know what you should do for leggings? You should do either top hat or dinosaur print, like stripes down
Yeah, that
the
could work.
legs.
That could work.
That would be super cool.
Well, as of now, there's no leggings, but there's pretty much everything else that Teespring makes. But if none of that's your thing, oh, sorry, also there's an Amazon wish list, right? It's mostly just fun stuff for me, but there is some channel stuff, like there's a new monitor because my right monitor likes to just not turn on sometimes, which is troubling, and it's happening more and more frequently, and I think that in a few years it'll probably just stop turning on altogether, which not ideal. There's also like a sound booth, but most of it's just like fun stuff like RPG books or dice sets or GM screens, stuff like that. That's also another way you can help out. Just, help me have a little bit more fun in my off time. But if none of those are right, if you just are unable to help out financially, or you just don't want to, that's fine too. You don't owe me anything. Please like the videos and share them. Sharing is one of the most important parts. Because like I said earlier, I usually get less than 1% of my viewers sharing my stuff. And I know that because if you take the number of unique viewers I have per week, and then you take the number of shares that I get, and I just assume that since the best ratio is that each share is going to be by a unique individual, right? It still doesn't come to 1%. That means that no matter what, fewer than 1% of my viewers have shared my videos. So please share my videos. You don't have to share them anywhere in particular, right? Just share them to your Facebook page, share them to your shitter page, Instagram, Blue Sky, Mastodon, Threads, TikTok. Is that a thing? Can you share videos to TikTok? I don't even know.
TikTokers. Anytime I hear someone refer to Mastodon, I just start hearing the song, the cake song. Mastodon.
Savage Monkey Fish Cobra has gifted 5 memberships. They went to Al Trucker, Vadim Samovsky, Redchenko, Crypto 457, Off Journey, and Brian Stevens. So what we're going to do is we will take 5 drinks and we'll just move on with this. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. Here we go.
It's occurring, but it always falls within a very selected group, and nothing really deviates outside of that. So this is where their philosophy comes in. They believe because speciation rates can occur, then you...
Speciation rates can occur. No, speciation can occur. That's just a misspeak.
Can occur.
But, it goes to show the sloppiness that he generally has.
Listen, it's one thing if, I come here on a drinking stream and I'm out of date on a biology thing, so that's clearly a misspeak. Or I do the thing that I do, which I flip like east and west. Right? That's a misspeak. I know, it's a problem. I also flip left and right.
But if you hold up your index finger and your thumb, the one that looks like an L is the left.
I know, but I have to do that to tell them apart.
Okay, that's fair.
Right?
I mean, to be fair, I did that for an embarrassingly long time as, a kid. So...
Okay, I, as a small child, could not figure out which way 3s went, and I worked on that really hard, and I got it figured out, and I could always write my 3s correctly. And then I got to college, and I took some pure math courses, and we started doing epsilon delta proofs, and I was like, oh no. And now it's hit or miss if my 3s are epsilons or not. It undid all that work child Madie did.
Oh.
So we're going to go with the undiagnosed dyslexia.
I mean, it's possible, right?
Yeah. It feels... I have almost all the symptoms.
Hey.
So,
anyway.
Suspected dyslexia. We'll call it suspected dyslexia. But anyway... So, it's one thing to misspeak and correct it and move forward. It's another thing if, everything you say is nonsense and then you misspeak.
So, DM, Current Issues in Science Wing, says, when I hear Mastodon, I immediately think pterodactyl. And then I think saber-toothed tiger. And then, of course, someone else thinks Tyrannosaurus. and then another person thinks Triceratops, and then someone else thinks Dragonzord.
But I liked the Pink Ranger.
Well,
and
that's
you already
pterodactyl.
said
Yeah,
hers.
sorry.
I know, you said hers.
Well, look,
And then the other...
Kim is a great Pink Ranger, but have you seen Jen Scott's?
Mm-mm.
Then you're
I've
missing
only
out.
watched, like, original Power Rangers.
Well, here's your homework assignment.
Okay.
The best Pink Ranger is Jen Scott's, and she is the Pink Ranger in Power Rangers Time Force. So sit down and watch some Power Rangers Time Force for the best Pink Ranger.
Okay.
No shade on Kimberly or Amy Jo Johnson. Amazing job. Amy Jo Johnson is currently helping head up a new comic book project with Boom Studios in a new comic book universe for Power Rangers called Power Rangers The Return. By all accounts, it looks really great. She's been a huge booster for the franchise. She's still active in the franchise and for fans and all that. No shade. However, as a character, Jen Scott's is better than Kimberly Hart. And I don't know what to tell you.
When I was 5 years old, my mom handmade me
That is pretty cool.
a pink Power Ranger costume to match Kimberly.
That is cool. I will grant you. However, I will say the Time Force suits are pretty cool too.
Okay.
So,
But my mom didn't hand make me that one.
Okay, I get the nostalgia, and I'm not going to say that that's wrong, right? All right, here we go.
Okay.
You can just keep taking speciations back in time, and they can overlap. Now,
what does it mean for them to overlap? I don't even know what that means.
What does that mean? Is that like species fusion?
Well, I mean, back in time,
speciation is fission, then what is fusion?
Well, I mean, if you were to run time backwards, then speciation would look like the fusion of two different species, right?
Okay, true. Yeah. Okay.
But what does it mean for two speciation events to overlap? Is it just that they occur at the same time?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like, lots of speciation events should be happening at any given time in the past, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know what he means by that. Like,
I don't know what he means.
It's just a nonsensical set of words, as far as I can tell. I think he has a concept in his brain, and he just doesn't know which words to use to appropriately express that in a way that other people can understand it.
Yeah, and I'm normally pretty okay at figuring out what they mean, right? What the Young Earth Creationists we review on here mean, but I'm struggle busting with this one. Let's listen to a little bit more and see if I can't figure it out.
That's a problem that they have as well. It's called the taxonomic boundary paradox.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you're gonna take this one then, because I don't know what that is.
So this is a real thing, right? Which is, where do we draw the lines between various taxonomic groups, right? So, for instance,
because this is a category thing, right?
Yeah,
Humans looked at nature and made categories,
exactly.
but those are fundamentally arbitrary.
Right. So it's things like, okay, so let's say we have pinnipeds, right? Today we think of pinnipeds as a family. Now, pinnipeds includes walruses, seals, and sea lions, right?
Okay.
But okay, what if someone comes along and says, okay, well, when should they get distant enough from each other that maybe it would be more appropriate to say that sea lions have their own family? And the answer is, well, there's not really an answer, right? Because taxonomy is fundamentally an arbitrary thing. Taxa don't actually exist. What exists are lineages, and we identify lineages as clades. And when we identify a clade, ideally what we've done is we've identified a real existing genetic lineage that objectively exists. Now, sometimes we get that wrong, right? Sometimes we think some collection of organisms form a clade, when in fact, some part of that alleged clade is actually in a different clade, and our definitions are a bit off. That happens, right? Because like everything else, it's a hypothesis.
Right. Like everything in science, you don't always get it perfectly right at the start.
Right. So clades are real.
Okay.
But taxa are fundamentally not, right? They're fundamentally arbitrary categories that we put things into, which is one of the things that you come to where it's like, we kind of have a definition for species that kind of works in some cases. But when it comes to anything higher than that, it's just up in the air, right? Like, what is a genus? Well, it's a collection of similar species. How similar? The answer is as similar enough that the workers in the field that group of organisms fall under agree that it's a genus.
Yeah.
It's entirely a social construct.
yeah, it's a little bit they look alike, so we grouped them together.
Mhm.
We're kind of playing one of these things is not like the other
Yep.
on Sesame Street.
And look, what's a subfamily? What's a group of similar genera? What's a
Yeah.
family? It's a group of similar subfamilies. What's a superfamily? It's a group of similar families. Right?
Yeah.
And it just keeps going up. Every time you get to a new ranked taxon, right? What is
Yeah.
it? Oh, it's just a collection of similar members of lower taxa. And how similar? Well, similar enough that the people who work in that field agree to call them different or similar enough to be in this next higher taxon.
Yeah. Which, by the way, is why I can't do biological science. That's fun. When I complain about biology being squishy, like that is the stuff I'm complaining about.
But the thing is, that's just how we talk about certain groups. The stuff about like cladistics, phylogeny, biochemistry, those are all much harder and much more mathematical. Like if you want to run a cladistic analysis, you actually make up character state matrices with actual character state like symbols like zeros and ones, and you actually run statistical analysis like Boolean algorithms and neighbor joining and algorithms and stuff like that. It's all very mathematical. But then later on, you're like, okay, but what do we call the stuff that comes off of this node? And it's like, I don't know, man. Call it whatever you want. It doesn't matter. It's a node. It's right there. You can see it.
I want my science to start with a partial differential equation and go from there.
Well, I mean, to some extent, biology does that. And the thing is, while no one really does, fundamentally, biology could be done without much in the way of like squishy taxonomy stuff, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, then we would have to just like name groups of organisms the same way like we name stars with like letter and number designations, and no one really wants to do that, right? No one wants to replace Canidae with like clade 46b7. Like that's not what anyone wants to do. So, but that when people say like biology is a lot squishier, it's in some ways it is, but in some ways it's really not. There's a lot of rigorous math that goes into biology.
No. I believe you, and I'm being very tongue in cheek.
Fair, but it's also a misconception, so that's why I want to like.
That's fair.
Talk about that.
But I also will like I get a little upset when the math I have to do is statistics and not dynamics. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah. I want to be able to do all of my science with a pencil and a piece of paper.
Vadim Slamovsky-Rodchenko says, we should make Russian nesting dolls, but with Klein bottles? No. I refuse. Klein bottles are already close to where my brain breaks.
Did you know you can actually knit a Mobius strip along a singular edge?
I mean, that makes sense. I would think that you would have to be able to.
Yeah, I've done it. It's very fun.
Ooh, nice. That sounds really cool. But yeah, Klein bottles are... I just get how a Klein bottle works. It's right at the edge of like the things that my brain can like wrap itself around. Yeah. Like I can... Like, I don't remember how many cells are in, like, a hyperkey, right? I always have to work it out in my head. And, like, I'm doing it right now. So it's like, okay, so 6, 7, 8. It's 8. It's 8 cells in a hypercube. 4-dimensional hypercube, it's 8 cells. But I have to do it at the time, right? I can't just, like, oh, yeah, it's just... I just know, like, I have to think about it. So 4 dimensions is the maximum number of spatial dimensions that my brain can kind of work with. And past that, my brain just falls apart.
But what about very fun surfaces that have, say, finite area, but infinite perimeter?
Oh, that's like a whole bunch of different fractals.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Which means that object, technically, the dimensionality of that object is a fraction, right? It's not 2-dimensional and it's not 1-dimensional. It's somewhere in between, and you can calculate that down to a number.
Yep.
I love that.
Yep. Actually, in one of my videos, I went through a number...
That breaks my brain more than n-dimensional hypercubes.
In one of my videos, I actually went through a few examples of... at least this is how I remember in one of my videos that happening. If this isn't real, then I'm just having false memories. I do remember going through a few fractals and listing out like their dimensionality and how it's not a whole number.
Anyway. which is very fun. We should. Sorry, read the super chats because we should get back to the thing we're avoiding.
Meldaborn, who's been a member for 15 months and was at the Seropsa level, says the partially subjective application of taxonomic labels is one of the main reasons why the term kind used by young Earth creationists is so wishy-washy, especially when they try to equate kind with family. Yes, because families fundamentally aren't a thing, right? Families don't exist in nature. They're just, some clades are arbitrarily assigned familyhood for some reason. Vadim Smolovsky Redchenko says the Klein bottle is purely 3D. Incorrect, sir. That is incorrect. 3D slices of Klein bottles always actually break the rules of topology, making them actually not completely single-sided, because one bit has to break through physically the surface in one area in order to come back on itself in 3D, whereas that turn actually in a real Klein bottle happens in a fourth spatial dimension. So, there you go.
Yes.
And you got to remember, Carl Linnaeus, who invented taxonomy,
by the way.
Okay, we're taking a
First of all, Deborah, you have to admire my mono layer.
Oh, that's very nice.
Thank you. And now we'll drink for the invention of taxonomy by Linnaeus.
Look, taxonomy, in the sense of categorizing organisms, was going on way back with the ancient Greeks, right? What Carolus Linnaeus did is twofold. One, in his, I think, 6th edition, but don't quote me on that. No, maybe it was the 10th edition. Yeah, because I think this final edition was the 13th, and it was the 10th edition that did this. So, okay, I'm revising that. I'm pretty sure it's the 10th edition. Sorry. Look, I have edition numbers for both Origin of Species and Systema Naturae, like both kind of floating around in my head, and it's hard to keep them straight. So I think it's the 10th edition of Systema Naturae. He introduced the binomial nomenclature that we still use today for organisms. However, that is not the invention of taxonomy, right? Aristotle was doing this way back when. Also, by the 13th edition...
Old man.
Well, okay, that's Diogenes.
Okay. Fair. It's still one of my favorite stories.
It is a great story. And also, I want to be fair, the philosophers then adjusted their definition to being like a featherless biped that has teeth or something like that, right? So it was like, aha!
Brilliant.
Now you can't pluck a chicken and say it's a man, Diogenes, you troll.
The ancient Greek philosophers, there were just a bunch of trolls.
I mean, good. Imagine having your shitpost echo through history for like 4,000 years. Well, 3,000.
I aspire to be that amazing.
Anyway. Oh, yeah, so the other thing is that by the 13th edition, Linnaeus had the most rigorous, up until that point, version of taxonomy. And much of what he wrote is still what we use today. Now, there's been a whole lot of changes here and there are some things that he grouped together that we no longer group together, and there's some things that he would split apart that we would now group together. Cool. Whatever. But he did not invent taxonomy. He is the father of modern taxonomy, and that's important, right? Right? Like if I said that, oh, this guy is the father of modern architecture, that doesn't mean he's the first person to ever put a building up, right? That's not what that means. The modern part is important. So, all right, here we go.
He was a Christian and a creationist.
I mean, he did believe that God had created... First, he believed that God had created specific species, but then later, as he became aware of hybridization between things that he had designated separate species, he softened that a little bit, and he was like, well, maybe there's some kind of change between species that can happen, and that God created slightly broader categories, like maybe genera or something. So, sure. But yeah, like, he was a creationist in that sense, but also, you gotta remember, you can't really call someone a creationist in contrast to accepting evolution when the idea of evolution as we understand it now has not been proposed, right?
I'd also like to bring up that, like, in the Nicene Creed, which is my kind of basic standard for, like, this is generally what Christians believe. It's a good litmus test.
Fair.
There's the phrase, we believe in God the Father, maker of heaven and earth, of all things visible and invisible. So it's this idea of a creator God is very, very rooted in Christian theology. But the theological element does not specify, therefore you have to believe that God created every species.
Yeah.
individually, specially, specifically.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's you can play word games with creationist, starting in Linnaeus's time and earlier, right? You can say that they were all creationists, you know. Well, like, one, I'm sure they were like, yeah, God made it, it's cool, you know, like, because biology didn't exist yet, but we still know how to like breed our horses to get faster horses, you know.
Yeah. Okay. This is a bit off topic, but Donald, I'm gonna go with Jaramillo. I really don't know because J's are always the worst, and LL is also usually the worst. But anyway, Donald here says that reminds me of people calling Cleopatra, or saying that Cleopatra was African American, which, yeah, I'm going to just drink for that fact because that is...
Oh my god.
Ooh, hey, fun fact. If you don't and have never lived in America and none of your ancestors have, you're probably not any kind of American.
Yeah.
People in Africa aren't African American. Even if they look like African American people physically.
Mm-hmm.
It's not how that works. African American is a specific group of people in America who are descended from enslaved people in America, which also means that technically, if you just move to the United States from Africa, you're not part of that community. Now, you might be treated as if you were.
Yeah, I went to college with I was good friends in college with one woman from Kenya and one from Uganda, right? And they, like, does this make, listen, so, and it would be inappropriate to refer to them as African American because they're not, they're just black. They also happened to be African, right? But, like, anyway.
Goop23 for $2 says, "Hi, Madie, I'm learning how to knit." That's cool.
That's so exciting. I love knitting because it feeds my math brain, because it is just math and patterns, and then you get a hat. And I love it. I love knitting. I actually don't know how to crochet. But I like knitting.
Nice. I'm going to get some more Matt in.
Okay.
So when he said humans are hominids or humanoids, he meant that. He didn't mean that.
What?
Humanoid? Like in D&D?
So I thought back to the Neil Breen movie Twisted Pair, where the narrator says that he and his brother became humanoids despite starting out as humans in the first place. And also repeatedly says AI, artificial intelligence, as if that's a whole phrase and not just a repetition of what AI means.
Oh no.
Yeah, if you haven't seen Twisted Pair, please do. It's amazing. There's several scenes where people just stand around what's clearly a table in like one of those like college campus study rooms, but it's supposed to be a conference table, and they just shout words like artificial intelligence, programmable matter, DNA hacking, and they just shout those words, and that's the scene.
Damn.
Twisted Pair by Neil Breen is a absolutely amazing movie, and I'm so happy I watched it. Also, you get to see him, Neil Breen, run around badly green screened on top of static images of industrial scenes from like stock photo archives, while bad special effect explosions that he plugged in there happen with the same sound effect happening every time there's a new explosion.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
Yeah, and like the camera will pan, except you can tell it's a digital pan across a static image because there's no parallax change. And like that's the camera movement. And the entire rest of the film is filmed in either one of the houses he owns, because he's actually a real estate agent, so he's always owns a few houses here and there, or it's on this one college campus. And like every scene, he goes to a restaurant with his wife. They're on the college campus. He meets a homeless man on the streets. It's on the college campus. He sneaks into the bad guy's secret base. It's so much on the college campus, and you can tell it's after hours because that's when they can film. And there's actually a grate over the entrance to like a coffee shop that's in the middle of this guy's secret lair.
Oh my god.
It's so amazing. Anyway, my unfinished rating for $5 says, "My neighbor from Togo will be the first to say he's not African American." Yeah, well, look, African American is a specific community in the United States with a specific history, an extremely unfortunate and unjust history, but still a very specific history. And if that's not you, then you're not really part of that community. And Cleopatra definitely wasn't, because not only did she never make it to American, she was born before any of that stuff ever happened. So here we go.
We are chimpanzees, or we're related to them.
So Carolus Linnaeus actually said that humans, he basically put the other apes at first in the genus Homo, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then later on, he separated out the great apes into other genera, and then, with, according to him at least, some pressure from the clergy, he actually separated humans out into Homininidae and put the rest of the apes into Pongidae. Now, we no longer do that because humans are more closely related to chimpanzees than chimpanzees are to any of the other apes, which means that would make Pongidae a paraphyletic grouping. We don't like paraphyly, so we want monophyly.
Yeah.
So we just subsumed everything into Hominidae, and Pongidae is now something you only come across in, like, creationist circles. Crafty's Siren, who's been a member for 7 months and is at the tetrapod level, says, I crochet a lot, and knitting is an amazing art. Nice. Thank you. I'm always impressed by that. I actually had a knit 4th Doctor scarf at full size with screen accurate colors and pattern commissioned.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
It's one of the more expensive things I own after, like, a car and a computer. And it's very, very cool, but I don't get to use it very much living in Tucson, Arizona. But, like, I can wrap it around my neck, like, 6 times, and it still has, like, the sides will hang down to, like, my mid-torso.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I also use knitting. It's a really great anxiety reliever for me. Because it kind of keeps both my hands and my brain just engaged enough, right?
Yeah.
That I can kind of, like, I have to think about it. I have to be focusing. Not so much that it's taxing, but just enough that it's hard to worry about other things.
Yeah, no, I get that.
So it's really useful. The last time I had to TA a grad class, I knitted a whole sweater.
Nice. All right, here we go.
That happened later. That's how they invoked and took their story and melded it to mesh and try to fit their own evidence. But it doesn't match up at all. That's why there's a paradox.
Wait, I'm sorry. Did he just complain that we tried to make the story fit the evidence?
Yeah, he did.
As opposed to what?
And then
what
he said it just didn't fit, which it does. I have no idea.
So yes, we see birds speciating, but dinosaurs didn't speciate into modern day birds.
How do you know?
Why not? Why
That's
can't
just
that
an assertion.
happen?
Yeah.
You see the difference?
No, I absolutely don't. I'm
I
taking
don't.
a drink because I do not see the difference. Because all you're saying is a group of dinosaurs speciated into other dinosaurs, and now we call one group of dinosaurs birds. Which, okay.
Cool.
I don't get it.
They actually believe that. They believe that the T-Rex evolved, speciated continuously from birds over time into modern day chickens.
That's double wrong.
No, that's very wrong. Okay.
Tyrannosauroids are basically on the opposite side of Coelurosauria from birds. They are in no way ancestral to birds.
Aren't chickens like raptors?
What do you mean by raptor? Because that's a tricky word when it comes to biology.
Then I don't know, because I don't know enough to be specific on it.
Okay.
So I will let you explain.
So, if you have all of Coelurosauria, which is sort of the birdish like dinosaurs, right? You have on the group farthest away from birds, you have Tyrannosauroidea with animals like Dilong, Eutyrannus, Tyrannosaurus, Albertosaurus, Torvosaurus, those animals, right? Getting a little bit closer, you have animals like Compsognathids, like Compsognathus, which is the primary one, right? Get a little bit closer, you get to Alverosauridae, like Mononychus, the adorable little one-claw guy that you might have seen on the prehistoric planet, right? It's a tiny little guy with only one finger. He's going around like eating bugs. Yeah. Savage Monkeyfish Cobra for $5 says, would this podcast be named Dogma Over Data by any chance? I mean, this one isn't. But I do recommend Dogma Over Data because Dan McClellan does a great job at the whole biblical scholarship thing. So yeah, if you want to take a look at a historically informed and textually informed version of biblical scholarship, Dan McClellan is certainly a good person to go take a look at, as well as, of course, Dr. Kip Davis, who's been on this channel, as well as Dr. Josh Bowen, who's also been on this channel. Dan McClellan has not been on this channel, although I would certainly have him on. DM Current Issues in Science Wing for $2 says, T-Rex evolved to walk on his hands. Yeah, that was a claim that Matt Powell made. Which,
wow.
Yeah, so, anyway.
By the way, once we finish this, we need to revisit Matt Powell, because his YouTube channel is now, like, a prank channel?
Yeah, I noticed that.
But a bad one.
Yeah.
Also, Josh Bowen is responsible, Josh and Megan are responsible for possibly my favorite quilt I've ever made. Because when they were having their
cuneiform
twins
quilt, yeah.
Yeah, I made them a cuneiform, like, alphabet quilt based off of their book, the How to Read Ancient Sumerian.
That's pretty sweet.
And I got Dr. Josh to, because, like, I've known Josh since I started on YouTube. Back in, like, 2018. We used to go on, like, the same channel and do guest spots. But anyway, I also made him spell check my Sumerian.
Nice. Actually, that reminds me. After I had him on my channel, he apparently talked to Kip Davis about his appearance here, and I found out from Kip Davis that Josh Bowen thought that I was a linguist, which I found very flattering.
Oh,
yeah,
that's lovely.
Yeah, I was very flattered by that. I was like, oh, the professor of, like, Sumerology and Assyriology, specializing in the languages of ancient Mesopotamia, thinks I'm a linguist.
So he's not a professor. He has his PhD.
Okay, sorry. A doctor of Assyriology, and my apologies.
He's not currently working, like, in academia in that field.
Got it.
That's one of the reasons he and Megan and his wife started the channel, was so that they could do, like, make their field of Assyriology more accessible to the rest of the world.
Well, I appreciate that. All right, we're going to get a little bit more Rahmat in, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Okay.
Because chickens share more relation genetically with a Tyrannosaurus. So
than what, Matt?
Than what?
Than a crocodile? Yes.
Yes.
Than a triceratops? Yes. Then Madie? Yes. Then, say, an oviraptor? No. Then Troodon? No. Then Archaeopteryx? Also no. Right? We're getting closer and closer to birds, if you didn't notice. I'm just going to take a drink for that ridiculousness of more than, but without telling us what the other comparison is. We're going a little bit more in.
There you go. They believe that speciation has no boundaries, and that if you take it back far enough, everything is related.
Okay, that's true. We'll take a drink for that.
That's true. Well, okay, hold on. I've got a caveat. We think that speciation has no genetic boundaries.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, something that, like, Hovind likes to say a lot is, like, well, you could never get a dog the size of Texas. So not because of genetics, right? You can't get a dog the size of Texas because what would that dog eat, and how would they survive Earth's gravity? But in a theoretical world where you could have a quadruped the size of Texas not be crushed under its own weight, right, and be able to breathe.
And be able to just send nerve impulses across that enormous body.
Right. Like, and have access to food. There's no genetic reason why it can't get that big. Right? There's nothing limiting in the DNA, there's things limiting in the environment. And so there's a misunderstanding about why speciation is limited. Because in theory, right? Like, okay, like, you can we can in theory make a computer do anything, right? We're limited by, like, how fast we can make the electrons move through a circuit.
Yeah. And also and how close together they can be without just quantum tunneling around.
Exactly. So we're limited by things that's not programming, right? We're limited by external factors. Same thing with genetics, right? So, like, or even think about it with, like, language, right? You can make a sentence that says anything. The alphabet doesn't restrict you, we are restricted by human understanding, vocabulary, right? The number of words we've made up as a species, the number of things we've experienced. Because you could imagine that we don't have a language to describe, like the experience of a seventh dimensional being, because you and I don't experience 7 dimensions, right? And so we don't have
Well,
language
you
for
don't.
that. Well,
Maybe I
don't.
do. But
But
no,
I mean, like,
don't.
that's not the fault of the language. That's the fault of the people using it. That's an external factor.
Yeah.
Right? So same thing with genetics. There's nothing genetics can't do, right? But the environment might not let it.
Yeah. There's nothing it can't do except that, there's environmental and, like, laws of physics barriers.
Exactly.
So, like, we're not getting Cyclops from X-Men anytime soon.
Not anytime soon. I'm sorry, Chester. That's no fun at all.
All right. Well, let's take a look at what's coming up. Madie, I know that you're currently sort of on hiatus while you're working on your defense.
Yeah, so baby and then dissertation, but I've got a light at the end of the tunnel.
Nice.
I'm supposed to defend at the end of March. So my reading copy of my dissertation is due at the 1st of March, and then I'm defending at the end. And then I'm gonna sleep for a month.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna start a postdoc. But once I start my postdoc, I should have free time again. And since that's not a teaching position, I miss teaching, and that's one of my favorite things about my YouTube channel. So I really want to dig into, especially now that AIG is switching over to less young Earth creationism specific things and more like culture war stuff. They're doing a lot of climate change stuff, and it's so bad. And I just I honestly want to get drunk and tackle it.
Nice.
So hopefully in April or May, I can start doing streams on my channel again. I miss hanging out with everybody that hangs out over there. I love getting to do this here with you, Dapper.
This is like a stopgap until you're back.
Yeah, this is just my fix until I'm back on my channel. But I'll make an announcement here because this is the only place on YouTube right now that I'm like regularly appearing. So I'll let y'all know when I'm going to be back on my channel, and it will probably be some specific climate change, young Earth creationism, or conservatives in the U.S. stuff, because climate change.
There's a lot of overlap there.
There's a lot of overlap, and climate change, since I'm in meteorology, that's a very appropriate field for me to be covering.
Fair.
So.
All right, well, let's take a look at what's coming up on this channel. First of all, after this, we're going to watch 4 episodes of Power Rangers Time Force. So head over to the Discord.
If you were gifted a membership today, make sure that your YouTube email and your Discord email are the same, because that way you can access your members-only Discord channel to go hang out and watch Power Rangers as the after show.
Almost. That's almost it. So what actually you need to do is you need to go to settings, and then you need to go to connections. You can add your YouTube channel, and as long as you can log into your YouTube channel, you should be able to connect your Discord to your YouTube channel, even if they're not using the same email.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just use I have my Science Side Up email. That's all of my Discord and YouTube stuff. Okay.
So, that is what we're doing immediately after this. Well, when I say immediately, like, I'm going to get up, stretch a little bit, maybe grab a snack or something, come back. So, few minutes.
Feed your meat sack.
Yeah. Then on the 21st, we're doing Dinosaurs and Noah's Flood. Batty Bodie's Dinosaur Delusions, number 2 out of 4. And I also just noticed that the title has some odd punctuation, so I'm fixing that as we speak. There you go. That's fixed now. And then on the 23rd, on Festivus, I am having, in fact, a Festivus show. It is called Haynes Responds to Ross et al., Dapper Journal Club, but it is also a Festivus show. And so you are welcome to come, air your grievances. If you want to perform feats of strength, I won't really be able to acknowledge them fully because I can't see you, but feel free. Now, as far as who's going to be on, Vishanti is going to try to be on, but The degree to which she will have internet and hardware is iffy. And also, I have invited Dr. Joel Duff, but I have not heard back from him yet. So, it might
By
just
the
be
way,
me. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to make a recommendation for everybody's Festivus celebration. That with the airing of grievances, think about that. This is something actually like my the improv community here in Oklahoma City does. We do an airing of grievances, but it is letting go and like just letting things you want to let go of.
Yeah,
right.
It's a healthy.
And so it's a really healthy thing. And so that might be like an improv specific. That might be like I'm still really upset about how I performed in this show, right? And letting that go, or whatever have you. But yeah, think about, it's a really healthy thing to let go. Don't carry anything into 2024 that you don't need. 2024 is an election year in the States, guys. We're going to be carrying a heavy enough load.
Speaking of which, though, there was just today, a few hours ago,
Colorado Supreme Court decision.
Colorado Supreme Court decision decided that Trump was banned from being on the primary and final ballots. However, I fully expect that the legal team for the for Trump will be appealing this to the Supreme Court. And so right now, that only affects Colorado, right? If it's not appealed, or if the Supreme Court just opts not to hear the case, which they're going to, but if they were to opt not to hear the case, technically, that decision would only count for Colorado. Now, other judges might take into account the findings of the Supreme Court in Colorado, but they don't have to. And so, because the United States is a little bit weird that way, right? Like, just because the Supreme Court in one state says a thing doesn't mean a damn thing for the Supreme Courts in other states, right? However, if the Supreme Court takes that up and says, yes, Trump did in fact engage in an insurrection, was an officer of the United States as president, and is therefore barred from holding future federal office, that means that no matter how many people vote for him in the primaries, no matter how many people want him to be the nominee for the Republican Party, no matter how many people vote for him in the general election as a write-in candidate, he is not allowed to take office. Period. He will not be sworn in. Even if people cast electoral college votes for him, they will not count, because he is ineligible to take office in the same way as if he were a 4-year-old baby. So I don't know if you know this. Maybe some people aren't Americans here. I definitely know some people aren't Americans here. There are a whole bunch of requirements to become the president of the United States. One of them is being 35 or older. If you're not going to be 35 by the time that you would become president, you're not allowed to be on the ballots.
Yeah, so I can't run for office this year.
Well, I mean, you could run for other offices.
Well, I can't run for the office of president in the year of our Lord 2024.
Yeah. But yeah, so...
But yeah, one of the fallouts of the Civil War, for our non-American audience, is that if you took part in an insurrection, if you held federal office, took part in an insurrection, you can't then go back into that office. So the idea was, like, for states that like seceded, they can't go back to their old jobs, right? We got to get fresh blood.
There is a way around it with congressional. Basically, the Congress can vote to allow you back into federal service, but that happened very rarely, and there's no real possibility of it happening in this case because you need more than just a simple majority, and I'm pretty sure you need it in both houses. So yeah. Anyway,
and Democrats still hold the Senate.
I'm pretty sure they're going to hold the House in another year or so.
Yeah.
Because there's a number of toss-up elections that are not looking favorable for the GOP.
Yeah. Sorry, I live in a very red state, by many measures, the reddest state. And to the point that our governor just banned the existence of diversity, equity, and inclusion offices on all public education things. So the DEI office of my university that I currently attend is shutting down. Because by state law, they're not allowed to exist anymore. And I'm upset about that. But listen, you guys are not here to complain about me. listen to me complain
There
about my
you
university
go. That makes more sense.
5 minutes after our normal cutoff time.
All
I'm
right,
getting in the way of
guys.
Power Rangers.
We're going to
So-
get out of here. I hope to see all of you on Thursday for the next Batty Bodie's Dinosaur Delusions. And in the meantime,
Beautiful.
I'll see y'all later.
Bye, team. Have a good night.
Hey, before you leave, I just want to take a second to thank my patrons and channel members, especially those pledging $20 or above. Benthoven, Thurhavara, Tapioca Weasel, Whispers, Denny5252, Elaran Teller, Horseflesh, Ian Chan, Kelvin Brostek Van Manen, Landon Knoll, Mabbity Babbity, Monkey They Them, Robert Carpenter, Sphincter of Doom, Volus, Eta V, and Strawberry Vein. It's because of my channel members and patrons whom you're seeing on screen that this channel can stay afloat. Without you, it would all shut down. If you want to join the team, there's a link to join the channel below this video, and there's a link to join the Patreon in the description. On the Patreon, you can get a 10% discount for pledging annually, and either way, you get early access to virtually all of my scripted videos, often 3 to 5 months before they come out for the general public. Thanks for watching.